Hey, so I just finished a workout that I thought I would not get the chance to do. I'll be honest with you. I had when I got up this morning, I had kind of written this one off. But the fact is, I just finished it. And, it's one of the things that I'm even more deeper committed to. The more I work in the speaker, storyteller space, and I'm on the road, it's harder to do workouts than ever before. When I'm home, I have 3 teenage boys that are knee deep in sports and Army ROTC. Hey, John. And they really keep me busy, so working out is actually easier because they call me out and call me names if I don't go work out with them. But when I'm on the road, when Monty and my wife, are on the road, it's really tough. It's tough to get the workouts in. You're living in hotel rooms, the hours of the speeches and workshops that I give are crazy. And if you're not careful, if I'm not careful, I slip into just this routine of being on the road, just kind of surviving on the road, living for the gig, and then the body pays the price. Same thing, working overseas in combat and stuff. It's hard to find a routine where you can take care of your body, sharpen the saw. And so that's a constant struggle, but, really working hard on that this year. And the workout that happened today, like I said, it really wasn't supposed to happen. And here's why. It's because I'm giving a keynote and a training session to a large corporation, large bank here in Washington, D.C. And it's going to take all my day. We had to be up, Monty and I had to be up early this morning. We had to be over here for the first speaker to do his video webinar. And get a feel. I like to get a feel for the room, who's in the room, and what the temperature of the room is in terms of, emotional support and all that. It's real important for me as a storyteller to get a sense of the room. And so, we gave up the time that I would normally work out. It's just trying to catch a cab in DC with traffic. I had to be here. So I decided this morning. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take my gear, and if I get a chance, I'm gonna try to get this workout in because it means a lot to me, and I'm going to look for an opportunity to get it done. Hey, Eric, good to see you on here, buddy. So we showed up here this morning and listened to the first speaker, did my ritual warm-ups that I do before I speak, got a sense, got my own space familiarity done there, and got done what I needed to do, and now several hours on my hands. So basically, asked a couple of the staff members here if there's a gym. Now here's the crazy part, and this is where I think the coaching comes in. We're using a facility in Washington, D.C., actually Northern Virginia, that was once the Exxon Mobil headquarters, right? And it's been vacated several years ago. Exxon has a new corporate headquarters, but this thing is massive. It's like a multi-million-dollar facility. It's massive, stretches for acres. And there's nobody in it, right? There's nobody in this facility except the 40-some-odd participants of the leadership class that I'm teaching, and they have kind of the run of the place. So I decided, what I'm going to ask. I asked if there was a place where I could go and work out, and there definitely was. I want to show you. I'm going to flip the camera around. I want to show you something. So this is the space that they gave me. This was the Exxon Mobil corporate gym. You can see, a swimming pool out that way. Over behind me, is a huge wooden area for ropes, CrossFit. And here's the crazy part. I'm the only dude in here. There's no one else in this building. This gym is mine for as long as I want to use it. Now, for some of you, that may not be a big deal, but for me, this is a huge deal. I never get time like this when I'm on the road, right? To just get out there and do my workout and do my thing, clear my head before I give my talk and all that stuff. And to have this kind of space to myself is unprecedented. But I think the teaching point here is that this was a transaction that took place based on a relationship. This was a transaction that took place based on my relationship with this organization. I don't think I would have asked for the space to do this in the beginning. If I had just shown up for my first time to work with these guys, I wouldn't have done that, right? It's just something I would not have done. I would have been focused completely on delivering the goods for them and establishing trust and through performance and through commitment to what we agreed that I'm going to do. And I would build that relationship. And that's exactly what I did the first time I spoke and taught here. They really liked it. The people liked it. The feedback was solid. There was a lot of trust established. And so now I'm back here and they've hired me on to do this for, a year or so. And so now we're starting to build a relationship. And this is where I talk about when you put the transactions after the relationship or the relationship before the transaction. Because now things like, going to the gym, right? We're going to use this space from here on out. I've got a place where I can come by myself and train before I speak or after I speak. And that's huge for me. That's a huge transaction, right? And that is a result of the relationship that I've built with this organization. You can build relationships with organizations. And those transactions will just keep spinning off of this relationship. Now, there is an element of reciprocity here. This is the key. Other teaching point is that this is why the relationship is the asset, not the transaction. Because you can bet the guy Rolf that hooked me up, right, I'm going to pay it forward to Rolf. I mean, Rolf is going to have, my gratitude for one thing. He's probably going to get a Man Up t-shirt. Right, I'm going to make sure that he knows how much I appreciate what he did. If there's anything I can do for him, I'm going to do that, right? Because the relationship is the commodity here. My relationship with this organization, my relationship with the people of this organization, not from necessarily a self-interest point of view, but because we offer each other things that have value to the other party that may not have the same value to me. For example, them letting me use this space, no big deal. To me, it's huge, right? And so trading those kinds of items of unequal value, those are transactions that come from relationships. And when you start measuring up cumulatively the things that come from our relationships, you run out of paper, right? At least I have in my life. You run out of paper in how you can record these things. So just a small example of how when you put relationships before transactions in your life, the transactions just keep spinning off those relationships. And that's how we're designed as humans, right? We're not designed to put transactions first. We do that in the West. We do that in the United States and other Western countries, but it's not natural. It's not normal. That's why it feels creepy when someone comes to you with a transaction and you don't know who they are. That's why you're like, ugh, you know what? I don't think so, right? You want to get to know that person or have a relationship with them, even if it's just for a short conversation before you make a transaction of any kind, monetary or not, right? So me coming in and asking to use this gym space in the very beginning when I started working here would have been a little much, right? So a good negotiator, a rooftop leader knows when to ask for those transitions based on the depth of the relationship, based on the breadth of the relationship. And again, if you'll just focus on the relationship, I found if I focus on the relationship first, I'll know my barometer, my inner compass will tell me when the times are right to ask for transactions and when it's time to pay back transactions and when it's time to pay it forward. And if I just cultivate and tend that relationship, everything else works itself out, right? So those relationships, and again, in this fast-paced world, that's hard to do. That is so hard to do because we're running so hard, aren't we, right? And everything around us is transactional. Everything around us is a contract. Everything around us is the rat race. And the good news is, though, for rooftop leaders, if you take a step back and you just take a breath, you recognize that while everybody else is running around with their heads cut off, the leaders who focus on relationships, the leaders who focus on trust, the leaders who focus on telling story, the leaders who focus on listening, right? Those are the ones who are going to crush it. They're going to crush it in Beachbody. They're going to crush it in all kinds of sales. They're going to crush it in life. Their kids are going to listen to them more, right? There's a better chance that your children are going to follow what you suggest. Their relationships with their loved ones are going to be deeper because that's where we all live. That is where we all live. In fact, that's what I'm teaching the folks at this, Fortune 25 company. They're emerging leaders. I'm teaching them exactly what I'm telling you right now. That relationship is those relationships are your greatest asset. Whether you are a Green Beret who I just trained last week, or whether you're a banker, your relationships are your asset, right? And that's your end game. So as we build our relationships for the sake of the relationship, not for the sake of the transaction. The transactions will take care of themselves. They really will. And you'll see it as you start to do it, right? So just think about that, if you would, for today. Think about what relationships do you have in your life right now that are very, very relevant to your life and to your business. Like, what are the most critical relationships, whether that's with your children, with your spouse, parents, right? At work, your customers, your team, your boss. Where are your most, write them down. What are your top 10 relationships in your life? And how do they stand right now? How are you doing, as Stan McChrystal says, as the gardener, tending that garden? Are you cultivating those relationships? Are you tending to them? Are you managing them? Because if you do, the transactions, that's right, Eric, the transactions are byproducts of our relationship. The relationship will keep throwing off those transactions. And again, guys, this isn't theory. This is how human beings have been operating for over 250,000 years. This is who we are. This is how we're designed to interact with each other as social creatures who are at the top of the food chain because we're social. And the more we understand the nature of our transaction, the more we understand the power of them, the more effective we can be. And John Mattis here, he says, my whole career was built on relationships. Exactly. In fact, most of our things in life were built on relationships, right? The people who are purely transactional, let me ask you a question. Do you want to be anywhere near those people? Do you trust them? I don't. The people who are purely transactional, and even them, I would bet you if you peeled the onion back, there's a lot of relationship stuff there. But here's the difference, John. Your whole career was built on relationships. My career was built on relationships. For most of us, including me, a lot of that has to do with instinct, right? We instinctively build relationships. But what if we can take that instinct for building relationships and turn it into cognizant skill? What if we can become more aware of those around us and what their connection points are below the water lines? What if we can connect through storytelling, through active listening, through just quiet empathy, right? What if we can connect those ways and make it skill, not manipulative, but for the good of the relationship, for the higher purpose? And like Brian says, that's what we teach at the Spartans Rising, the Rooftop Leadership Experience. It's what I teach corporate America. It's what I teach Green Berets. It's universal, this stuff, and that's the other cool part about it. Most leadership stuff teaches what? You lead this way for good business. You lead this way for strong family. Leadership is leadership. You're leading people, right? You're leading people in a way that you have a crystal clear vision of a better world that does not exist yet. And then you have the dynamic ability to inspire others to help you build it, right? That's leadership. That's rooftop leadership. People follow you because they choose to, not because they have to. And if in that approach to leadership, the commodity that you trade in is the development and maintenance of solid relationships that are relevant to your vision of that better world, brother, you are buying and trading in the stock that is the most authentic thing on the planet. And in this trust-depleted rat race of a world that we're living in, people are so hungry for that. And they'll gravitate to you and they will follow you because you're real, man. Because you're true. Because you're speaking truth and you value relationships and you put relationships before transactions. Isn't that what you can smell a mile away, Brian? Like if somebody comes up to you and they're salesy or they're purely transactional, that's shallow and we can smell it. Who just joined us right now is my oldest son Cody's girlfriend, one of the coolest little ladies on the planet. Her name's Jillian. She's awesome. She understands the value of relationships. In fact, I think with our children, this is so important that we continue to teach them in this hyper-connected world of digital devices and things that even though those devices and platforms are fantastic, relationships are at the heart of everything, right? Relationships, if you can develop strong relationships and cultivate those relationships, boy, the transactions will just keep on coming. So I guess my homework to you today is a couple things. I'd like you to write down, just write down the top 10 relationships in your life and business. I don't think there's a separation. I think that it's hard to separate the two. So what are the top 10 relationships in your world that you value, that are the most important to you achieving that crystal clear vision of that better world that doesn't yet exist, that you're building? What are the 10 relationships that are absolutely crucial to that? Okay? And then how do you stand in those relationships right now? Are they in the negative or are they in the positive? Are they assets or are they liabilities? Don't worry about the transactions right now. Don't worry about, oh, I got to get my boss to give me a raise, or I got to convince my team to follow this. No. Where does the relationship stand? Because guess what? If the relationship isn't there, if the trust isn't at the baseline and the social capital isn't in place for them to, choose to follow you out of inspiration because they've bought into your story, they're not going to follow you anyway. The transaction is going to be that thin. And when your back's turned, somebody's going to roll a grenade in the room. That's just how the world works. All right. I appreciate the time, and I'm going to go back to cooling down in my private Exxon gym. Until next time, I'll see you on the high ground.